Welcome back to P1. Today we're going to be looking at Unit 1.4, negative and fractional indices. I've put the rules that we're going to be looking at today, the 4 rules down the side. Okay, I think they're quite self-explanatory. Let's get into a couple of examples. And what we'll start with is using the rules that we used in Unit 1.1. So if I look at this one, it's just going to be x to the 5 minus 5. So it's going to be x to the 10. Nothing difficult there. And this one, we've got x to the 1/3 plus 5/3. So that's going to be x to the 6/3, which is same as x squared. So 2 very straightforward questions to start off. Now let's look at the next one here, number 3. So cube root, so I'm using one of my rules here, so I can change the cube root into the power of 1/3. 8x to the power of 9 to the power of 1/3. Okay, so what I can do there is, I'm just trying to break it down in steps, so 8 to the power of 1/3, and we're looking at x to the power 9 to the power of 1/3. Now remember, when you dealing with this, you're multiplying these powers. So 9 times 1/3 is going to be 3. So that means x to the power 3. And the cube root of this 8 here is going to be 2. So we get 2x cubed. Another way you could look at it would be, if I just rub this out, is thinking of the numbers and the letters separately. So you're taking the cube root of 8, and then with your power, your x to the power 9, you're taking that as a power. So the cube root of 8 is 2, and then x to the power 9 is x cubed. Okay, and that's kind of what you're thinking about in your head. With the 4th one here, first we need to split these fractions up. And then we've got 5x cubed over x10, so it's going to be 3 minus 10, so 5 to the power negative 7. And then x squared divided by x10 is 2 minus 10, so x to the negative 8. Okay, and then these could also be written as 5 over x to the positive 7 and 1 over x to the positive 8. So if you needed to write them as a positive power, then you could. Now let's look at evaluating a few numbers. So if I have 64 to the power of half, what that means is I'm looking at the square root of 64. Square root of 64 is 8, and really it is plus or minus 8. 8 to the power of 1/3, we've done this one. Cube root of 8, so it's 2. Now when I've got a negative power, what I want to do here is first change it to a positive power. So I can do that by essentially looking at the inverse of this fraction. So this is going to become 3 over 2 squared, which is 9 over 4. Now looking at the last one, very much the same way. We want to change it to a positive power first. So it's going to become 4 over 9 to the 3 over 2. So you're just changing from a negative power to a positive power. Then what I really want to do here is square root first, then cube. Bottom of the fraction is the root, top of the fraction think of as the power. So square root first, so it's going to be 2 over 3 cubed, so it's going to be 8 over 27. I'll give you a few to try yourself. I'm just going to jump in here on question 3. Simplifying these ones, 64 to the power of half is the square root of 64, which is 8, and then x to the power 10 raised to the power of half, you multiply the powers, so x to the power of 5. And that's A. If I'm looking at B, put that one underneath. Again, 125 to the power of third is the cube root of 125, which is 5. And then x to the power 12 raised to the power 1/3 is going to be multiplying them x to the power 4. And then part C, first we need to simplify by splitting my fraction up, and then essentially cancelling or using my rules. So 2x to the minus 7 plus x to the minus 5, and often you would leave these then as positive powers. If it wants you to, it will often actually say in a question to leave as a positive power. Okay, final question here. Let's start with A, so it's y to the power of third, so it's 1 over 8 x cubed to the power 1/3. So if I'm thinking of it, the 8th to the power 1/3 is the cube root of 1/8, which is 1/2. So there we are, half. And if I think of the powers, x cubed to the power 1/3, you multiply the powers, so it's just going to be 1, so x. So my first one is just a half x. Now my second, we got a half y to the minus 2. So again, let's break it down. This time actually I'll break it down, I'll use a black pen. So, my 1/8 to the minus 2 is going to be the same as 8 squared, 64. My x to the 3 to the minus 2, I can just multiply them, x to the minus 6. And then replacing that back in here, I'm going to have a half times 64 times x to the negative 6. Half of 64 is 32, and I can put my x to the power 6 on the bottom there instead. Hope you found the video useful. If you did, please like and subscribe as I work through each unit in the International A-Level Mathematics via Excel.